What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And today I'm back with my top bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts. I almost said my top 5 bets, but it's actually not a top 5 bets this week. It's a little bit more, but a little bit less in another way. We have no UFC this weekend. So all of the events so far, they're just money line prices, so that's what we're gonna go with. I'm sure I could wait until Friday evening or something, and I might have better, but then everyone wouldn't be able to sit down and enjoy the betting show. So I'll talk you through my winners, my prices here, and there's actually a lot of betting that we can do this weekend on a lot of different areas. So far, the prices are out for the Cage Warriors fights this weekend, PFL and Oktagon. No Invicta, unfortunately, yet that I can find anyway, and maybe in the comment section below I'll throw in a couple of my bets there, but for now we will go with those. Before we get into that though, let's recap last week. And last week was a pretty good week all told. We didn't hit the flyers, we never do. Brian Ortega didn't get his submission, unfortunately, for the betting audience, but we did hit 3 of the other 4 bets, and it's some pretty good prices too. Obviously, we had O'Malley, he didn't win, but the others did. Shevchenko at plus 120. I think a few people last week gave me a bit of props for that one. I called it exactly as it was. I thought it'd be a very wrestle heavy display, and that it turned out to be, although maybe slightly differently than I thought. I think there was a lot more kind of blast doubles and genuine wrestling, I suppose, rather than kind of Muay Thai hip toss throws, or Muay Thai clinches into hip toss throws, which I was kind of calling, but we'd had the same result anyway. We also had Sarah Collins winning in the Bellator main event against Liam McCord. I picked one against the Irish and one for the Irish, and both were right, so that's a good way to do it. And I told you, I'll give you pro-Irish and anti-Irish in terms of bets all the time. I'll pick who I think will win, and I got it right this time. I don't always get it right, but I try to take bias out of it when it comes to the betting show. But again, love throwing in an all-Irish bet, and we have more this weekend, so there you go. Sarah Collins, I actually got her minus 108, but there was some place, I think she went out as far as plus 120, the closer to the fight it got. So I might have told you the opposite as well last week on the show. I'm pretty sure that I haven't checked that back on that, but yeah, that was, I think the fight showed it was a bit of a crazy price. And this is nothing against Liam McCord or anything. I just think Sarah Collins is a special individual. I think when Cyborg kind of retires and all that, like, it'd be tough to beat Cyborg, absolutely, but I think she is going to be like your next best 145 pounder in the world. I think she's absolutely fantastic. Only 5 or 6 fights into her career, so it was one of those cases I don't think people had seen a lot of her, to be honest. And I've covered her for her last 3 fights and watched all of her tape and all of that, and I had a fair idea. So, and then the other one, bet of the week, plus 185, Darragh Kelly. I was actually talking to Darragh after, and I thanked him for making me look like a genius after this pick. But yeah, Darragh, even he won in a more convincing manner than even I thought, to be honest. I thought he'd win the fight, but I thought he'd do it more with his kind of athleticism and all of that. Now, he used that, but it was the smarts, it was the technique, it was the ability. Brilliant stuff here from Darragh Kelly. And I'll tell you what, if you're betting on Darragh Kelly in the future, you're probably going to make some money out of it, because that lad, I don't think he's losing anytime soon unless he gets a big step up here in competition very, very soon. So great weekend for us here, plus 185, and basically an even money and a plus 120 winner as well on the bet. So you can't beat that. Right, here we go. Let's get to this week's bets. And maybe I don't know how long, maybe it'll be a little bit of a shorter betting show this week, because I kind of want to throw these out there. I have a good few bets that I want to give you, and we can chat through them as we go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 winners, 3 money line bets like usual, and then I'm going to give you 3 parlays. So I'm going to give you a double, a triple, and a quadruple. So a little bit different to what we normally have. No what was I going to say? Flyer this week, which is probably good. And we'll count the 3 towards the record at the end of the year. And then I actually forgot. I should have done it last weekend for the pay-per-view. I promised I'd do it for all the pay-per-views and then just completely forgot. So it's back for this one. We'll count these as we go. So, right. Let's start with PFL Mena for our first bet of the week. And I'm going to go for, even though, like, I was a bit iffy about this price, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I'm going to go for Jarrah Al-Silawi to win his fight over in the PFL. He is fighting Omar El-Dafraoui, and that is in the co-main event. And his price has kind of moved there in the last one. He was minus 200 there for a while, but it's out to minus 225 now, and that's why I was a little bit iffy on the price there. But I'm picking it anyway. I like him. I spoke about it on the previous show this week. If you haven't listened to the previous show, I went over all the kind of the events this weekend. Sorry, still dealing with a bit of a flu here. But I spoke about it on that podcast and talked about, both of these guys and how I think maybe, like, if you look at their records, 26 fights versus 17 fights, you look at where Al-Silawi's been, I suppose the level he has fought, and I think that is the reason I'm kind of leaning for him more than anything. I don't think it's maybe I'm doing the wrong thing here, but I don't think it's as wide as that price suggests, and I think it is as wide because of the run that Omar is on. He's won his last 5 in a row, but I just don't think that the level that he has fought is the same as what Jarrah is, or what he has fought. And he's, before that, like, if you look before that, he lost 4 in a row to Omar. One was to Muhammad Al-Rak, who is fighting at the weekend as well, I believe, but is a good fighter, and he lost to Ahmed Sami as well, and other people like that. Whereas Al-Silawi, he's been in there. He beat Gleison Tebow. He was in there with Umalatov. Okay, he lost that fight and he lost the C, but he was in there with those guys, and he won all the fights around them. He beat Lazy King in 2019. He lost to him as well, but, like, he was, fought Carlton Harris, and he's beat a lot of good guys along the way. And I just think that level, like, I remember watching Omar the first time I saw him, I'm like, this guy is good, but, like, what is the level of guy he's beaten? Is it up to scratch? And I think that's the biggest issue. Like, you look at Al-Silawi, it's all about counters. A very good counter fighter. Throws lots of feints. Very fast and accurate with those counters as well. Like, he landed a big KO with a knee in the PFL, and he's a big leaping right hand, a lovely shot altogether. And as well, like, for a guy who's been around for so long, his athleticism, I don't think he's dwindled at all. And look, if he can throw a few less feints, even though they're nice, open up a bit, he is a very good fighter because he can add in takedowns then. He's very good submissions, and when he gets on top, he's absolutely fantastic. And Omar then on the other side of it, he's a southpaw fighter with fast 1-2s, but I think Al-Silawi might be a little bit faster. as we talked to that there. At the same time, Al-Silawi, 32 years of age, versus Omar's 29. There isn't much of a gap, but Al-Silawi's put a lot more road on those 32 years than the 29 at the other side of it. I think the big issue for Omar here, and I said this in the previous show as well, is that he can be taken down. And I say this about him every time I see him fight, but certain fighters won't be able to deal with what he brings, and that's that really good 1-2 down the middle. And this is what I was alluding at the start. The level that he has beaten and fought at, his speed and his accuracy and his technical ability with that 1-2 down the middle is too good. And I think that's why he'll lose this fight, because it's not too good for Al-Silawi. And I think he'll deal with him on the feet. I think he'll probably take him down, and I could see a finish in this one here. So that's bet number 1 of the week. Bet number 2, I'm going over to Oktagon for this one. And actually, my next 2 bets for Oktagon, I'll come back then for the next one. I'm going for Agy Sardari to beat Attila Kormaz even over in Oktagon, and the price for that one is minus 175. Now, again, this is a price I think will probably come in a little bit, but I think this price would have been a lot bigger a few years ago. Sardari lost a few fights in Cage Warriors, after he became champion. He lost to Joe McColgan for the belt, and he lost to Figlak as well. But like Joe McColgan is, I know he's kind of retired now, if you want to put it that way. And he lost to Figlak, who ended up in the UFC. Joe McColgan should be in the UFC as well. And then he went and he won 2 in a row, and he didn't lost to Losene Keita, who a lot of people I know that I talk to reckon he's the best fighter outside of the UFC or outside of a big organization. Octagon is a big organization, but you know what I mean. So, like, I think because of that, maybe Sardari is being underrated a little bit. You look at Corma's in on the judges fight. He beat Amir Khani in his last fight, and I believe I gave that as one of my bets of the week or spoke about it anyway. And I think that's one of those fights. And again, the David Gallon win, that may be slightly overrated, if you want to put it that way. The big thing here, I think, is for Corma is I think he is a little less good in more areas than Sardari, right? I think Corma is a guy, he's 4 submissions, 3 knockouts. He's only been submitted once, never been knocked out, right? But he's good in all areas. I just think Sardari's a little bit better maybe as a finisher on the ground and maybe a little bit technically better on the feet. Now, sometimes that doesn't always end up winning you the fight. Now, look at Leon Edwards. He's fought a lot of guys who are better than him in a lot of areas. But I think at this level and in this sort of fight, I think it might be the difference. And the big part for me is I just think Sardari has the, and maybe I'm going too much by MMA maths here, but I think he has the edge in like recent wins versus recent losses. And you even look at him against Keita, like he lost the unanimous decision, but he went all 3 rounds, with the guy who's the top rated prospect in the world at the moment. So I like Sardari. I think he's jab. I think if he can get on the end of that, if he can get a couple of takedowns, maybe even get a submission. I know Cormas has been submitted once. It's not something that happens very often. In fact, it was a long time ago, I believe, when he was submitted right at the very start of his career. So, look, I do see this one probably going to a decision, and I like Sardari to win a decision there. Right, next bet I'm going for, and I looked a good bit into this one today, and this is one I'm looking at the price. The other two, I kind of ignored the price a little bit. I just kind of went with feel, and maybe the prices aren't massive. Look, I'll be honest, there isn't a massive amount to work with here. There's a lot of kind of big favourites this weekend and stuff like that, right? But this is one underdog I'm going for. I'm going for George Staines to win his fight over in Oktagon. He's fighting Jacob Tichota, I believe it's pronounced, and he is. Let me just check here again. Plus 120 is George Staines. So Jacob is fighting out of Czech Republic. He's 5-2, and he fought Keita as well last time out. He ended up losing that fight, and I watched a bit, and we'll talk about that in a second here. He fought Mate Sinakidze, who I believe is fighting Jack Cartwright this weekend. Before that is when he lost that fight, but he was 5 in a row before that, and he was obviously a top prospect coming through, and he made his debut back in 2020. George Staines at the other side of a 2-0, 20 years of age. He came through the Octagon show. He fought Dennis Frimpong from Ireland in that, and he won that fight. And as an amateur, I remember talking to my guy Agy Sardari, who covers a lot of the amateurs, and he was telling me about him a long time ago. We did a podcast on it, and I think he was something like, I have to do a lot of adding up here, but like 20-1 or something like that as an amateur, 16-1, 7. And he lost his last fight as an amateur, I believe. But other than that, he was beating a lot of guys and a lot of amateur names that probably people would know, the likes of Teddy Stringer and Ben Woneless and other people like that throughout his amateur career. And he's very, very good. I think you look, watch a few of Jacob's fights. Very powerful, big right hand, very domineering in terms of he goes forward, he pushes you back, and he wins the fight. I think that's the way he wins fights. You saw him against Keita. Now, Keita, big step up, obviously. Keita pushed him back, and he he couldn't deal with it. He just simply could not deal with it. Yeah, his face got bloodied up, and he ended up getting finished. And Staines, Staines only 2 fights into his career. We've seen a lot of him as an amateur, but it's different than the pros. Does he have the hands to do that? I'm not so sure. I think maybe, right? When I say I'm not so sure, I don't. That's sometimes a euphemism for no, but I'm actually not sure here, right? But I do think his wrestling is good enough to take him down and to beat him. Staines' wrestling is absolutely fantastic, and I know he's fought good guys and wrestled them, and I don't know if Jacob is as good as some of the guys, even an amateur, as he has fought and beat with his wrestling. So I think if this fight starts and 30 seconds in, Jarrah Staines has pushed him against the cage and taken him down, you're looking at that 120 and you're kind of saying, why in God's name did I not bet on him? It seems to me, again, like one of these prices that might change. I might be minus 120 or minus 150 by the time this fight comes. So yeah, that's pretty much simply it for me. I think Staines will take him down. I think he'll beat him on the ground, and I think he'll win at plus 120. Right, those are the 3 bets. Let's get into the parlays. Right, the first one, I mentioned we had a bit of Irish flavour here. I'm going to go for an Irish double over in Cage Warriors. We all like an Irish double, don't we? Over in Cage Warriors, and I'm going to go for Adam Shelley and Adam Darby, who are both fighting, and it's around even money. I have it here, minus 116 parlay for the 2 of these lads put together over at Cage Warriors. I believe they're both on the 177 card, if I'm not mistaken. Adam Darby is fighting Everton Borges. We'll have a quick look at that first. Darby, big, tall guy, 6'3", fighting at 170 pounds, massive, fighting out of Team Rhino. He won his debut, ended up losing his next fight very, very early, but then has won 2 in a row. He's been on that Cage Warriors show where they get put up for a year and they get all these training and everything. He looked really good over his last couple in Everton, 4-3 out of Brazil. He fought in 2024 and won. It was 4 years off before that, and he lost 3 in a row. But it looks like a guy they're putting in there to give Adam Darby a bit of a test, but that I think he should win. Adam's very, very good on the ground. I see 2 of those 3 losses for Everton were via submission, so I think that's probably what the case will be here again. We spoke a good bit about the Shelley fight over on the preview show, so I won't get too much into it, but I think Adam Shelley's shown in his career that he's a great man for bouncing back. He's 5-3 now. Lost the last time to Ewan Davis, who is a top prospect, but he had lost the fight before that to James Howard, again another top prospect, but he ended up winning 3 in a row after that, and I think that'll be the case here again. He's fighting Marin Vetrila, who's 4-1 out of Moldova, and I think this might be a fight where he might be able to showcase a little bit of the strike. And watching a bit of Marin, he has 2 submissions, but he seems to me willing enough to strike in lots of these fights now. We'll see how willing you are to strike when you get in there with Adam Shelley, who is a real good striker and real good on the feet. But Shelley's good in the clinch as well and good at stopping lads. I don't think Vetrila is on the level of the other 2 lads I mentioned there who beat him in his last 2 last 5 fights or whatever it is. I think maybe this is the sort of one where Shelley can get behind his jab, land those kicks to the body, land those leg kicks, land those kicks to the head maybe even as well, push him back and kind of win this fight. Again, maybe win a decision or something like that here, but Vetrila, again, hasn't fought to the level. The one guy he fought was Agy Sardari, 2023. He ended up losing that fight. So, I suppose this is one where we find out in this one who's going to be the guy who steps forward and the guy who steps back. So that's an interesting one there. Right, so that is the double, the treble. So I'm going for a treble, 1 from Cage Warriors, 1 from PFL Mena, and 1 from Oktagon. And I'm going with, honestly, this might be my mortal lock of the weekend, right? My favourite on all 3 of them, my biggest favourite. So I'm going for Chasen, Blair, Mohammadseifi, and Losene Keita. And the parlay is the parlay is plus 122 for the treble. Blair minus 400, minus 333 for Mohammadseifi, and Losene Keita minus 275. Just on Chasen Blair, first of all, he's now in the main event of that 177 card, I believe. And he's a top wrestler, went over and was part of the team for Paddy Pimblett's team, trained with him for an awful long time. Has a bit of an iffy record, 5-2 for a guy that dominant, but he's come back and he's won recent fights. Perty on the other side of it, then watched a bit of him. He's a good submission artist, but again, do you want to be on the ground with a high-level wrestler like Chasen Blair? I think that is probably what you want to avoid more than anything else. So I think Blair will take him down. I actually think Florin will probably be happy enough to try to play it on the ground, but again, training with Paddy Pimblett would be a big help for him in this fight. So I really like Blair in that one. Then we have Mohammadseifi over in PFL. He's fighting Suhail Tahiri. This is the one I would be a little bit iffy about compared to the other two, because I actually think Tahiri's good. He's a technical striker, good jab, good high kicks, good takedown defense as well, and can throw up a submission. But I just think Mohammadseifi's power punching, his ability on top, his wheel kicks, his wrestling, it's all very good. I always describe him as a young Hector Lombard. He's that sort of shape and that sort of fighter, so I do like him in that one. But that would be the one I'd be iffy about. If you wanted to make a double out of that triple, that'd probably be the one I might avoid in there. But then the third one is Losene Keita. Obviously, he is in the I think the third from the top over. He's fighting Mateusz Legarski. Again, Legarski is a very, very good fighter, but I just think Keita is on a different level. Like, if you look at some of the guys he's beaten over the last while, we mentioned Jacob Tichota, Agy Sardari, Ivan Bushinger, Samuel Bark, Roland Paradise, who's the champion at the moment, and then Predrag Bogdanovic in his last fight, who I thought was honestly a pretty bad matchup for him. Legarski, not a massively dissimilar matchup, and it's very hard to see it not going the same way, to be honest. Keita is very, very good, really, really good, and he can win fights in all different ways. He's big power, but if the fight goes to the decision, or if the fight goes to the ground, or wherever it might go, he can absolutely win it. There is also 14-1, and I think that'll be 15-1 come Sunday morning. So that is our treble, and I'll recap all these towards the end. Don't worry if you're getting if you're losing it a bit. And then the parlay, 4 bets that I'm putting together, plus 138. So these are all big favorites, all on PFL Mena. I'm going for Abdullah Al-Qahtani in the main event, Jarrah Al-Silawi, who we talked about earlier, Mohammadseifi, and then Ali Taleb as well. So we've talked about 2 of the 4 of those, plus 138 for that as well. So let's talk about the other 2. The main event, Al-Qahtani. I really like him in that fight. He's a big favorite in that fight, obviously, but I just think he is a loose, aggressive fighter, big and strong, and a really good grappler who's, throws you to the ground with those body lock takedowns, very aggressive counter striker, aggressive ground and pound. And watching his opponent, he's definitely not a bad fighter at all, Abdul Rahman. But he's only 4 fights into his career. This is only his second fight. He fought Ahmed Tarek last time out, and I don't think he's at the level of Al-Qahtani. All these fights went to decision, and if you look at a guy like Al-Qahtani, who's 9-1, but he's won all his fights have gone to decision. But sorry, he lost one. I take it back. But he's also, he's finished half his fights as well in there, and I think the one thing that stands out to him is, like, in his last 4 fights, 3 of them have been finishes. His last 4 wins and 4 fights in a row have been 4 wins and 3 finishes. I think that kind of shows what type of fighter he is becoming more. When he gets you down, when he gets on top, I think he is finishing lads. So that is a big standout for me. I think the other one was Ali Taleb. This guy to me is the standout fighter in this whole competition. He's trained with Akira Kurasani, very good switch stance fighter, loads of fakes and feints, good straight right, hits very hard, good movement, very good jab, great cardio, great chin, tough guy to fight. You know, when you think of Ali Taleb, it's kind of the known weaknesses type of thing. So yeah, he's a very, very good fighter. So that is the 4 there in that one. I'll recap all of those in a second. Let me just run through these cards and tell you if there's anything else that stands out to me in any of these. The one and Cage Warriors, we'll start with Cage Warriors first. Riri Hudson at -333. She could have put in to them. I think she will win. If I was to give you a bit of a wild undercard one, I see Mike Chimu here is -275. His opponent Agnes Yu is a good fighter, +200. I think Big Mike is right to be favoured, but I think that might be a little bit off there. Might be a tad off. Connor Patterson is a big price as well, -275. I do think he will win. And that's kind of the standouts from there. Over in the PFL, there's a lot of big favourites here. You know, obviously Al-Qahtani's a big favourite. Al-Arak is a big favourite, as he should be, I think, as is Mohammadseifi. You know, the one bit of value I gave you is Al-Silawi. There's Reda and Bellator is the fight that is probably, is it close on this card? I think it is. I think I'd lean Reda on that one. Rashid El-Haz, he's a big favourite as well, -350. Meskini also sizable enough favourite, a -225. So hard to get some value there. Another fight I would say over an Octagon, I think that is good value. It's -275, which again, you know, how good a value is that? Paradisa, he lost to Ankan Duke before, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that price probably would be -800 if he hadn't. So that one there. Mohammed Muradov coming over against Askham. I think Askham, if this was a couple of years ago and Askham was +270, I'd be giving it to you all day. I think maybe it's a little bit too late for Askham there. We spoke of obviously Keita -275. Pudilova in her re-debut, let's say there, -163. I haven't had a whole lot of, this fight was only announced not too long ago. Haven't had a whole lot of time to check out her opponent, Bolander, but you know, Lucia Pudilova is a good fighter, and maybe that's a good price there. I also like Jack Cartwright. I watched a bit of his opponent, and like if Jack Cartwright turns up and he fights the way he can fight, I think he'll win that fight, and it's +130. But I can't in good faith give you a Jack Cartwright bet considering how he's performed recently. So I didn't, and you know, that's kind of it from all of those cards. So let's recap. The top 3 bets, all money line bets. First of all, Al-Silawi over in PFL -225. Agy Sardari -175, and George Shane's -120. Then we have the Irish double -116 for Adams, Darby, and Shelley. They're both -275. Then we have the triple, Chasen, Blair, Cage Warriors -400, Mohammadseifi -333 over PFL, and at Oktagon -275, Losene, Keita, to give you a parlay of +122. And then we have a parlay of +138, all over in PFL. Al-Qahtani -800, -225 for Al-Silawi, Mohammadseifi at -333, and -800 Ali Taleb. Those are our bets for the week. Hopefully you're able to keep up with all of that. And thank you very much for tuning in. Please bet responsibly. Enjoy the fights. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.